2025 has already been a year filled with strange and shocking events. Behind the headlines are real stories that don't seem real at all. Lives cut short in the most unexpected ways. In this video, we'll look at 5 of the most shocking deaths of 2025. Each one leaves behind questions, confusion, and a chilling reminder of how fast everything can change. It was October 15, 2025, in Luang Prabang, Laos. Daniel Owen, a 47-year-old American school director, and his 15-year-old son, Cooper, were on vacation at Green Jungle Park, an eco-adventure resort near the Mekong River. Daniel had lived abroad for nearly 2 decades with his wife, Jessica, and their son. He was the director of QSI International School in Haiphong, Vietnam, and had worked with Quality Schools International for 18 years, serving in 5 different schools around the world. Originally from Idaho, Daniel was known for his love of nature and travel. His social media showed countless photos of him and Cooper climbing, skiing, and exploring together. This trip was meant to be another adventure, but it would end in tragedy. Green Jungle Park had operated for nearly 10 years without any serious injuries. It offered luxury camping and outdoor attractions like ziplining through forest canopies. On that day, Daniel and Cooper joined a guide for a routine zipline experience. The weather was normal and everything seemed fine. After finishing their run, they reached a tree platform and began climbing down. But during their descent, they disturbed something hidden, a nest of Asian giant hornets. These hornets are the world's largest, growing up to 2 inches long with powerful stingers. They're known for their orange faces and bright yellow markings. Their venom is strong enough to cause extreme pain and can be fatal in large doses. When threatened, these hornets become highly aggressive and attack in swarms. Within seconds, Daniel, Cooper, and their guide were surrounded by hundreds of hornets. The insects attacked relentlessly as the 3 tried to climb down the tree. Each sting delivered venom directly into their skin, and they were stung more than 100 times each. Somehow, Daniel and Cooper made it to the ground and were rushed to the nearby Phakan Aracavat Clinic. When they arrived, they were still conscious. Dr. Phanamse Phakan, who had worked as a doctor for over 20 years, said he had never seen anything like it. Their bodies were covered in red spots, hundreds of sting marks from head to toe. Despite the pain, neither showed signs of an allergic reaction, which made the situation even more unusual. Still, the sheer amount of venom was already overwhelming their systems. Because the clinic wasn't equipped for such cases, they were transferred to Luang Prabang Provincial Hospital. There, Dr. Jorvue Yanuchongteng and his team fought to save them. Cooper lost consciousness shortly after arriving and passed away within 30 minutes. Daniel remained awake for a few hours, long enough to know his son was gone, before he too passed away. Doctors said the high concentration of venom had caused both of their bodies to shut down. The U.S. Department of State confirmed their deaths, but did not release details. The U.S. Embassy in Laos worked closely with local officials to help the family. It remains unclear if their guide survived the attack. News of their deaths deeply affected Daniel's colleagues. QSI International School released a statement mourning Daniel and Cooper, calling Daniel a devoted educator who had touched countless lives. Friends and co-workers shared tributes online, remembering his kindness and leadership. Green Jungle Park also issued a statement, offering condolences and confirming they had fully cooperated with authorities. The park said the event was unforeseeable and extraordinary, noting that it had never recorded a serious injury in its 10 years of operation. They later strengthened their safety and emergency procedures. Asian giant hornets have been appearing in new regions, including the United States and the United Kingdom, threatening local ecosystems by wiping out bee populations. A single colony can destroy up to 90,000 pollinating insects in one season. Daniel and Cooper's deaths were the result of a rare natural event. What began as a father-son adventure ended in tragedy, showing how quickly nature's smallest creatures can become its most dangerous. It was June 13, 2025, in Bissy-sur-Flay, a quiet village in eastern France. 60-year-old Bernadette Delmotte, a retired training consultant, was cleaning her red Fiat 500 outside her home. She had moved there 10 years earlier after leaving the busy streets of Paris, enjoying a calm life after a long career as a coach and consultant. Born in Congo and of Belgian origin, Bernadette had planned to meet friends for dinner that evening, but she never made it. When Bernadette didn't arrive, her friends called her several times. She didn't answer, which was unusual for someone so dependable. Worried, they drove to her home to check on her. What they found would shock not just them, but the entire village. Bernadette was discovered outside, trapped in the driver's side window of her Fiat 500. Her neck was caught in the window frame. At first, everyone was confused. There was no sign of an attack, no indication of a health emergency. Investigators were left staring at the car, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. After careful investigation, police began to piece together the events. That afternoon, Bernadette had been cleaning her car but forgot to engage the handbrake. Her driveway was slightly sloped, and without the brake, the car began rolling backward. Realizing what was happening, Bernadette reacted quickly. The handbrake was inside, and the window was open, so she leaned through the driver's window to reach for it. In the process, she accidentally pressed the automatic window button. The window began to rise, trapping her as she leaned through. Modern cars have sensors meant to stop the window if resistance is detected, but for reasons unknown, either a malfunction or failure of the sensor, it didn't stop in time. Bernadette struggled to free herself, but the pressure on her neck made it impossible to breathe. Alone and unable to call for help, she lost consciousness within minutes. Her friends found her hours later still caught in the window. Paramedics arrived, but it was too late. An autopsy confirmed that Bernadette had died from asphyxiation caused by the window's pressure. Police found no evidence of tampering or foul play. It was ruled an accident, an ordinary mistake that turned into something unimaginable. The news spread quickly through the small village. Neighbors couldn't believe that something so strange and tragic had happened in their quiet community. Bernadette's brother, Francois, was devastated. When he first received the call, he assumed it was a normal car accident. But when he learned the truth, he struggled to process it. Her friend Beatrice described the scene as surreal, saying it took time for anyone to understand what had actually happened. Once investigators reconstructed the sequence of events, the shocking reality became clear. In the weeks after, Francois wrote a letter to Fiat, not for compensation, but to raise awareness. He wanted the company to review safety features in automatic windows to prevent this from happening again. Though extremely rare, similar incidents have occurred. In 2019, a 21-year-old woman in Belarus lost her life in nearly the same way when her child accidentally pressed an automatic window button. Bernadette's remains were cremated, and her ashes were spread in Bissy-sur-Flay, the village she loved. Her friends and family gathered to remember a kind woman whose life ended during an ordinary task she had done countless times before. Bernadette's death was ruled accidental with no one to blame. It was a rare, heartbreaking event that showed how a single small mistake, mixed with a moment of bad luck, can turn an everyday act into something tragic. It was July 16, 2025, in Westbury, New York. Keith McAllister, a 61-year-old man, accompanied his wife Adrienne Jones McAllister to Nassau Open MRI for what should have been a simple knee scan. It was supposed to be a routine appointment, but within minutes it turned into one of the most shocking medical accidents of the year. Keith and Adrienne had visited this facility before. The staff knew them well, even joking about the heavy 20-pound metal chain Keith often wore for weight training. It had become part of his daily routine. That familiarity, however, would lead to tragedy. Adrienne was lying inside the MRI machine as it scanned her knee. The machine's powerful magnets were active, creating an invisible field strong enough to pull metal from across the room. When her scan finished, Adrienne needed help getting up. She asked the technician to bring her husband inside to assist her. The technician agreed, but forgot one crucial step. They didn't tell Keith to remove his metal chain. They didn't warn him about the danger of metal near an active MRI machine. Keith walked into the room still wearing the chain. The moment he stepped inside, the magnet caught it with unbelievable force. In an instant, he was yanked off his feet and thrown into the machine. The chain pulled him forward violently, slamming him against the MRI. Adrienne screamed for help as the technician rushed in, but the magnetic force was too strong. No one could pull him free. Desperate, Adrienne shouted for them to turn the machine off, but MRI magnets can't just be switched off. Powering them down is a slow process, and Keith didn't have time. His body went limp in Adrienne's arms. The trauma and pressure caused his heart to fail. Emergency responders arrived, but he remained pinned to the machine for nearly an hour before they managed to free him. Keith was rushed to a nearby hospital in critical condition, but he passed away the next day on July 17th. Adrienne later said she couldn't stop replaying the moment her husband was pulled from her arms. Investigators soon discovered a series of safety failures. Keith had been brought into the room while the machine was still active. The technician failed to warn him about his metal chain, and although staff had seen him wear it before, no one stopped him. Keith's daughter, Samantha Bodden, created a fundraiser to cover burial costs. She clarified that her stepfather hadn't entered the room on his own. The technician had brought him in and simply forgot to tell him to remove the chain. Experts explained how the magnetic force of an MRI can turn metal objects into deadly projectiles. Even small items like keys can fly across the room. Patients are always told to remove jewelry, watches, and other metal objects, and those with implants like pacemakers are often not allowed near the machine at all. Dr. Payal Sood from North Shore University Hospital said a chain around the neck could cause severe injuries or worse. Another expert compared the force to a torpedo speeding toward the magnet's center, impossible to stop once in motion. Police confirmed that Keith's metal chain caused the accident and launched an investigation. Nassau Open MRI declined to comment, but remained open. The state's health department later revealed that MRI facilities in New York are not routinely inspected, raising concerns about oversight. Keith McAllister's death showed how one missed warning can turn a simple medical visit into a life-ending tragedy. MRI machines help doctors save lives, but even one small mistake around their magnetic power can be fatal. It was March 29, 2025, at Diamond Peak Ski Resort in Incline Village, Nevada. The resort, sitting high above Lake Tahoe, covered over 650 acres and stood more than 8,500 feet above sea level. For the Grimes family from Reno, that Saturday was meant to be a happy day. 7-year-old Adeline Addie Grimes had come with her parents, Ivy and Matt, to cheer for her brother Owen, who was competing in an under-12 ski championship. Owen was part of the Sugar Bowl race team, and Addie was his biggest fan. But what was supposed to be a day of excitement turned into a tragedy no one could imagine. Addie was known as a bright, fearless, and loving child. Her parents said she brought laughter everywhere she went. She loved sugar, skiing, soccer, and movie nights with her family. She and Owen shared a close bond, and their family was tightly knit. That afternoon, the resort was filled with families and young athletes. The mood was lively. Addie stood with her parents among the crowd watching the races unfold. Then, around 3:30 in the afternoon, everything changed. Witnesses heard a sudden crash from a rocky area near the spectator zone. A large boulder had broken loose from the hillside and rolled rapidly down the slope. Before anyone could react, it struck Addie. The impact was severe and gave no time for warning. Emergency services were called at 3:38 p.m., reporting a non-skiing accident involving a child. The Diamond Peak Ski Patrol arrived within minutes, followed by the North Lake Tahoe Fire Protection District and the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Rescuers did everything possible to save Addie, but her injuries to the neck and chest were too severe. She was pronounced dead at 3:40 p.m. The resort staff and families were in shock. The event came to a halt as responders and investigators secured the area. The Washoe County Sheriff's Office began an investigation immediately, examining the hillside and interviewing witnesses. Their findings showed no foul play or negligence. The boulder had fallen naturally, a geological accident that no one could have foreseen or prevented. The Washoe County Regional Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the neck and chest, officially ruling it accidental. The resort was temporarily closed while experts inspected the mountain for other unstable rocks. Safety teams checked and rechecked every area before reopening. For the Grimes family, none of that could undo what had happened. They had come to watch their son race and left without their daughter. In a statement, Ivy and Matt said Addie was the light of their life, smart, funny, and full of love. Her brother Owen lost not only his sister but also his closest friend. Addie's aunt, Sabina Grimes, helped organize community support. She started a meal train to provide food for the grieving family and launched a GoFundMe to help with funeral expenses and time off work. Over 300 people donated, raising more than $48,700. Sabina described Addie as a shining star who brought endless joy to those around her. Diamond Peak Ski Resort released a public statement expressing heartbreak, offering condolences to the Grimes family and the entire ski racing community. Counseling services were provided to staff members affected by what they had witnessed. Addie's death shook the Lake Tahoe ski community deeply. These families often traveled together, watched races together, and supported one another. No one could understand how something so random could take such a young life. Unlike skiing or avalanche accidents that involve known risks, Addie was simply standing in what should have been a safe area. The boulder's fall was a rare natural event caused by unpredictable conditions like weather and erosion. Adeline Grimes was just 7 years old. On March 29, 2025, she lost her life in an accident that no one could have predicted. Her family, her brother, and an entire community now carry the memory of a bright, fearless little girl who was gone too soon. It was October 24, 2025 in Cairns, Australia. Suzanne Reese, an 80-year-old grandmother from Sydney, was beginning what was meant to be the trip of a lifetime. She had spent over $80,000 on a ticket aboard the Coral Adventurer, a luxury cruise ship operated by Coral Expeditions. The 60-day voyage would circle the entire Australian coast, stopping at remote islands and hidden destinations. Suzanne, an active member of a bushwalking group and an avid gardener, was traveling alone but felt confident. She loved the outdoors and adventure, but she would never complete that journey. She wouldn't even make it past the first stop. The Coral Adventurer had been delayed a week due to mechanical problems. Finally, on the morning of October 24th, it left port at around 7:30 a.m. with 120 passengers and 46 crew members. The ship was built to reach isolated parts of the coast and use smaller boats called tenders to bring guests ashore. The first stop was Lizard Island, 240 kilometers north of Cairns, an isolated paradise known for diving and hiking. The ship arrived the next morning around 8:30. Passengers could either snorkel or hike to Cook's Look, the island's highest point. The 4-kilometer trail is steep, and the island's website warns that only those with medium to high fitness should attempt it, especially before the day's heat. Suzanne joined the hiking group. It was about 30 degrees Celsius, around 86 degrees Fahrenheit. During the climb, Suzanne began to feel unwell. Police later told her daughter, Catherine, that Suzanne was advised to return down the trail. But no one went with her. She started descending alone. The group finished the hike and returned to the beach. Crew members did head counts for snorkelers, but not, it seems, for hikers. Witnesses from a nearby yacht, Tracy Harris and her partner Matthew, said they heard the crew checking snorkelers but not land guests. Soon after, the Coral Adventurer lifted anchor and left the island around 3:40 in the afternoon, without Suzanne. It wasn't until dinner that night that the crew realized she was missing. They searched her cabin and the ship before assuming she might have fallen overboard. Around 10 p.m., 5 hours after leaving Lizard Island, the captain reported her missing to the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. The ship turned back, arriving at 2 a.m. on October 26th. Search teams and a helicopter began looking through the night but found nothing. At sunrise, the helicopter flew toward an area called Telstra Rock, where Suzanne was last seen. Moments later, it hovered over one spot before returning to the airstrip. Her body was found at 9:30 a.m., about 50 meters from the hiking trail. She had been there all night. Queensland police called her death sudden but not suspicious. Some believe she suffered from heat exhaustion or a fall. What's clear is that she was left alone on the trail while the ship sailed away. Her daughter, Catherine, described Suzanne as active and healthy. She said her mother's death showed a lack of care and judgment. She called for an inquiry, wanting to know how this could happen. Coral Expeditions CEO, Mark Fifield, expressed sorrow and said the company was cooperating with authorities. Soon after, the rest of the voyage was canceled due to Suzanne's passing and more mechanical problems. Investigations by multiple agencies later uncovered claims of crew shortages and rushed safety checks, though the company denied them. Experts in tourism said failing to count passengers returning from excursions was extremely unusual. Suzanne Reese had spent $80,000 for an unforgettable adventure. Instead, she was left behind, alone on a remote island just one day into the trip.